With me today is Professor Carl Rose from the World Energy Council. Professor Rose, pleased to see you again. Your report was announced at Daegu World Energy Congress. How was the response?
Well, so far we have had many stakeholders who come to us and saying, how did you do the work? What do you see as the main messages out of the work? And I'm very pleased to see that that it's taken actually serious, that some very heavyweight stakeholders out there in the energy field are actually starting to refer to it and are actually starting to quote some of the conclusions which we have drawn in the World Energy Scenarios, which is exactly what we try to do. We're not trying to put an academic piece of work out there. Having said that, we have a 350-page academic report for scientists to look at. But what we truly want to achieve is to make decision makers who can move things in the energy field, both on the business as well as the policy side, to just concentrate on some of the main messages which we portray in our alternative futures.
You've just attended one of the COP19 side events, Climate Action Sustainable Innovation Forum, and there are talks going on in the National Stadium at this very moment by stakeholders, and there's this load to Lima and then on to Paris. What these discussions and things like carbon pricing, what are the implications of these negotiations?
I think I was struck by a sense of realism which is in the discussions here in Warsaw. So we have actually quiet, unemotional debates which I see happening. And a lot less hectic, like we've seen, for example, in Copenhagen. What I also was very encouraging, which was new to me coming here, and which was also referred to just this morning here, was, for example, that China is experimenting with a pilot project on carbon, on a carbon system within China, within parts of China. Now, these are very, very important developments because having a carbon pricing mechanism of whichever kind, being it a carbon tax or being it a certificate system, is a prerequisite for putting different forms of energy on equal playing field in terms of their impact on the environment. And if China actually starts experimenting in its own context, then I see this as a prerequisite, as a leading step that at some stage in the future they will come to the international table and saying, okay, we have now done our own experiments and research on that, and this is what we propose internationally. And if a player like China does that, then it has a lot of weight. And then together with the experiences of the European trading scheme, for example, you might actually suddenly have China, Europe, and the EU and India again at the table talking about how can we knit this together on a global basis, which would be very, very important for climate change going forward.
How do you think your resource scenarios can trigger action on the ground on the stakeholder part?
Well, if you refer to the World Energy Scenarios, I think what it can do is to show, because they're explorative in nature, which means we're not saying we wish for this future, now we're looking at a roadmap, how do we get there? In this piece of work, we're saying we're just looking at present day, how alternative paths into the future could unfold in a plausible way. And then this is for decision makers, this could be a checkpoint against their vision. For example, if their vision is to contain global warming to 2 degrees C, our scenarios and suddenly tell them, well, even in our most optimistic ones, where government take important action, like in symphony, where government acts as a conductor for a symphony of music, even then we don't make it. We're getting close, but we're not quite there. It's for them a reality check, so they can go back to their vision and saying, okay, do we need to make adjustments to the vision, or if not to the vision, do we need to make adjustments to the roadmap? And it's important to have these reality checks in the system, and not only in order to be able to benchmark your vision.
Professor Carl Rose, thank you very much for your insight.
It was a pleasure.